the Royal Cubit conversation is kind of interesting. If I can find that document here, if you want to go there.
When you say the Royal Cubit conversation, you're meaning how all these things are a specific amount of. What do you mean specifically?
It appears that on a number of these artifacts that I've scanned and measured and found the dimensions of and divided by a royal finger, which is 18.7 millimeters, according to Isaac Newton.
Okay.
So if you find the dimension of like the length and you divide by 18.7, a lot of times you're getting whole numbers. And a lot of times you're getting like perfect fractions of numbers. And so people are going to say like, oh, it's just random, it's just coincidence. But if we can show through scanning enough of these and through analyzing enough of that data that it's just mathematically impossible to have that much coincidence happen and that yes, they were in fact using this measurement system, then you can prove that these things were accurate on a whole different scale than just roundness. You can prove that they're accurate to like on a dimensional scale as well. So
like a 3-dimensional scale.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not just like, this thing is perfectly round to within, a 100th of a millimeter or whatever.
Right.
You can say that they were able to create an object with a mouth opening that was exactly what they wanted it to be to within, like a thousandth of an inch or whatever, which is a whole new like mystery with these things because how could they measure that? Like how could they verify?
How? Right, exactly.
Right.
Did they have computers?
Right. Like what tools were they using to verify that like something microscopic in a lot of cases that you can't even see with your own eyes, and they're achieving that level of precision on these things. So that's a mystery. So this guy at the top, this is Adam Young's artifact, right? So if you look at this and the unsigned.io did a report on this that identified some sacred geometry in it. I'm going to stay away from that because I didn't completely understand the report to be, totally honest with you. But what we do find in here, if you just look at the measurements, and unfortunately, so this scan doesn't have the most accurate, like it's down to 1/10 of a millimeter on this scan. You can see, when you look at like the height, for example, which is, on here, it's that 6 and 4. So it's 6.412 royal fingers. But if you back all the way up, if you look at the millimeters on the height, it's 119.9 millimeters. So they didn't go to the 100th or to the 1,000th of a millimeter on this, so it wasn't the greatest scan. But what you find from that when you divide by 18.7 is you get 6.412 royal fingers in height. And so you look at that and it's like, okay, well, that's a meaningless number, and nobody's really found anything, with that number. But what 64 represents is the grid of life in sacred geometry. And so I think that when unsigned.io found the flower of life as it relates to this artifact with all those circles that he was doing, that what he had actually found was the grid of life. And that whoever made this thing was embedding the 6.4 as a sign that, hey, this is the grid of life. And the grid of life is basically the flower of life, except it's like a 3-dimensional version of it. So it uses tetrahedrons instead of circles, which this is a 3-dimensional object. So that makes sense. So and it's accurate to 6.4 to within 9/1000ths of an inch. So it's similar accuracy in the dimensions. So in the height dimension, if this is really what they were going for, 6.4, I think it was. It's similar. It's equal to like the accuracy of the circles that we find in it. And all anybody's been talking about is the accuracy of the circles for the longest time. But I do think the dimensions are actually something that we really need to look at too. The width, the second row down there is 84.3 millimeters. And if you divide that by the 18.7, you get 4.5 royal fingers to within 6/1000ths. The neck is phi squared royal fingers. 2.618 is phi squared royal fingers. So you've got to take phi or phi, and then you got to square it, and you get 2/1000ths of an inch deviation. I don't know what 1.2 is, to be honest with you. Maybe somebody on the show can leave in the comments. What
I'm sure somebody will know.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Right. The mouth opening on this one is very precise to 3/1000ths of an inch of 2.0 royal fingers. So So that one is highly accurate. And then the lip is pi royal fingers. So the lip is like the outside of the circle on the top, 3.114 to within 5/1000ths of an inch. You know, so I don't know, man. I mean, that one looks pretty compelling, although the measurements and the dimensions of it. But that one seems like it's lining up to this subunit of the Royal Cubit to within a high degree of accuracy,
right?
Because it's like all of these measurements. But then you don't find. This is really the only one where I'm finding these sacred geometry numbers. Like I'm not finding like pi row of fingers in the other ones that I've scanned so far. So I'm just finding like straight up either whole or fractions of row of fingers.
Wow, dude.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. So this second one, which is the spinner here, this guy, when you look at it, again, the height is 4 royal fingers to within 7/1000ths of an inch. The width is 6 to within 1/1000th of an inch. The mouth opening is 2 and 2/6. I think they're using sixths as opposed to thirds, but you could say thirds, and you're less than 5/1000ths of an inch. And the lip is 3.5 to within 4/10,000ths of an inch. So less than 1/1000th of an inch, 40% of 1/1000th. So very, very accurate on that. And it kind of just keeps, we don't have to go through every one of these, but you see the same thing on the thin wall artifact. You see very tight tolerances. And then I guess I just kind of probably close with this one, which is freaking huge and heavy.
Holy moly.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Oh, this is the biggest one out here.
Yeah, it probably is. Yeah, that thing's huge.
Good Lord. Look at that, people.
Right.
How big did they get?
It feels like a 45-pound barbell plate.
Yeah, that thing's legit.
Is this as big as they get, or did
I mean, in terms of the hard stone, yeah, they don't get a lot bigger in terms of the hard stone. Alabaster, the stuff that's like the imitation of this stuff, they can get much bigger than that.
You can feel the ribbing on the inside of it, where they use tools to carve it out.
Yep. And that one has good date. There's images of that one way in the 20th century,
really,
yeah. There's that one's. I think I feel really good about all these. I'm not gonna buy them if I didn't feel good about them, obviously, but I feel really good about that one. And that one is measuring out in whole royal fingers, but it's not as precise as some of these smaller ones, right? But when you look at the height, it's 7.02 royal fingers to within 1/100th of an inch, or just less than 2/100ths of an inch. The width is 13 royal fingers to within, it's a similar type of accuracy there. The neck, I might be able to get rid of that neck one just because I had to go to circumference there, and usually you're not seeing circumference on the neck. But even the 8.925 is pretty close to 9. The mouth is 4.99 royal fingers, so that's, you're talking 8/1000ths of an inch, and the lip is 9.95. So, and the handles are almost always in circumference as opposed to diameter. That's, 5/5000ths of an inch. And so you're talking
astonishing, dude.
It's incredible. I mean, and it's all whole royal fingers on the biggest one, which makes sense because they don't need to go to fractions on the biggest one, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that's that one. So
that's so wild, dude.
It's pretty crazy, man.
It really is. Yeah. And it's really cool that you've been able to connect with all these people like Ben Kirkwick and, the Snake Bros and all these guys who do all these trips out there and are fascinated by this stuff and talk about this stuff.
No doubt.
You'll be able to get them on your podcast and let them look at this stuff.
Yeah.
It's super cool.
Yeah. Ben was my first guest on the podcast.
Was he really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
He's a great dude. I mean, all those guys are great people with Snake Bros.
Was that his first time seeing these things in real life?
It was.
And holding them?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. He was like a kid in a candy store.
Pants?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, it's hard not to. It's one thing to see them behind a glass or whatever, but when you when you see these things, you get a sense that these are freaking old.
Yeah.
It's different.
When you go to a museum, are you allowed to touch them?
No. I mean, sometimes they might bring them out if you request it special with gloves and
Yeah, we were sitting at dinner last night in a restaurant, and you literally poured your iced tea into one of them to see how
Yeah.
how much water it would hold.
Yeah. To show.
That's insane.
Yeah.
You're a madman.
Yeah. Yeah, and this one that was this guy, and it's the spinner, and it still spins with the water in
Right.
it. And it actually, this one actually, when you measure the volume of the inside of this one, it's exactly an ancient system of Egyptian measurement. It's a heket. It's like
volume measurement.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's like 1/16 of a heket, which happens to also unfortunately be 300 cc's. So that's a modern measurement.
So the volume of all of these things could have sacred geometrical numbers.
It could have just numbers that were important for whatever, either trade, or you had to know how much you were paying to like fill your thing up with whatever liquid or perfume or whatever it was that you were buying. Potentially, like I don't freaking know, but those are some possibilities that the volume actually did matter.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'd be interested to see like how the volume of all of these different vases compare to each other. Mm-hmm. That might be a rabbit hole.
Yeah,
you could find something out. You could maybe dig deeper into what these things were for.
Right.